Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Hall Newberg, founder and editor-in-chief of Books of Eden Publishing. And I am here to read the preface and introduction of my latest book, Finding Home, a Mystical Memoir. And as you'll see, this is a recounting of my time, of my travels through France and Scotland, two of what I believe some of the most mystical and beautiful places on earth. So I'm going to read here the preface and the introduction. And I invite you to stay tuned, as over the course of the next few weeks, this should be available fully on Audible. So settle in, it's story time. The beginning of Finding Home, a Mystical Memoir. Preface. In the mystic tradition of the Kabbalah, which I have studied, yes, through my dreams and with teachers both here and in the beyond place, the concept of time is not linear, but vertical. Time, for them, is seen as a luminous stacking, moment upon moment, where all that has ever been, all that is, and all that ever shall be is accessible here and now. Time, then, is mutable, subject to the whim and will of our remembrance. Time itself, that inexorable marcher, is revealed at last to be our servant, in thrall to our very desires. This memoir is one such product of this luminous stacking. Written in the summer and fall of 2021, when I was traveling across continental Europe and finally Scotland, the story you hold is woven of the unknowns of that time, the unknowns of this time, and the things that have come to pass betwixt and between. I was on a quest, you see, to find home. It has been a long quest, initiated far before the first words of this book were ever written. Perhaps you feel it, reader, as I have since I was very young, the strange and unfamiliar density of this place we call Earth. This place where people insist that a stone is a stone, that time is a tyrannical force, and that gravity is real. Perhaps you, like me, have known a different Earth, at a different time, when the essence of everything shone through its form, when you could whisper to water and watch as it formed living citadels to your words, when you commanded light as a sentient force, where beauty was the highest principle of creation. The subtle tug of these memories can make us frantic with longing and confusion. When we receive these memories, they feel real, so much more real sometimes than the world in which we live. We feel crazy just to lift our eyes to them, and yet these memories cannot be denied. So we scrabble in the dark, in secret, groping behind the veil again and again, and trying to understand the visions that come to us. So often, it's like trying to grasp mist, to hold smoke. We close our hands on it and hold it aloft. See, we cry triumphantly, I have it now, behold. Then we open our empty hands and the world turns away. It is at these times that the world in which we live seems to close in on us with all of its implacable existence, demanding that we believe in laws and beliefs so contrary to our own deepest nature. How are ones such as us, the sensitive ones, the knowing ones, to find a belonging in this world? For those of us stirring with remembrance of a time past and to come, a time when every living thing conferred wisdom, when beauty alone was the highest principle of creation, How are ones such as us to belong in this gritty and clamoring world that insists so often on suffering and ugliness and cruelty and derision? I have learned we must choose. We choose to believe in these subtle places, this deepest nature of our being. Against all odds, in the teeth of the storm, we must choose it. In the face of all that is, we choose beauty. We choose magic. We choose grace. It is in this continual choosing that the bonds of the world fall away and we emerge free beyond imagining in the form of our truest knowing. But first, we must choose. This freedom, it cannot be chosen for us. Chosen for us. So I invite you now to turn toward your visions, the ones that beckon from places unseen. They are no less real for being beyond the grasp of your physical senses. They are no less real for being seen, felt, and heard only by you. What is a fairy tale but a story waiting to come to life? What is a myth but possibility awaiting form? Feel them stir now within you. Watch as they rise around you, enlivened at last by your undying belief. For I tell you, reader, I have lived a fairy tale, a myth. I have brought them to earth through the very flesh of my body. I watched them rise like citadels around me. But before we begin, there is one last thing I must say of my travels within and beyond realms. Within the far-flung reaches of my quest, I have found one thing that is always true. It is love that is the driving force of existence. It is love that brings forth the fairy tale, the myth. It is love alone that confers beauty. It was ultimately love which I sought, and it was love which I found. Is the past any less true for being mutable? Are the visions of my life any less real for being seen, heard, felt only by me? I assure you, reader, every word of this story is true. Read now and live it. Introduction. A short introduction, I think, for we have a story to get to, do we not? Reader, you hold in your hands the book of my awakening. You will see, as you read, a blossoming of someone who holds gifts and is at first bewildered by them. Over time, I am happy to say, she learns to claim them. This book is not told in chapters, but in passages. It was written originally as a journal of my journey, so to speak, with much of the text preserved just as it was written at the time. This is a chronicle of my travels within and through some of the most beautiful, most mystical places on earth. It is as well a written exploration of my own inner terrain, a place I found that is no less real, no less alive than the firm ground on which we stand. The first part of this book was written in France in a small bucolic valley of the Burgundy region, within constant sight of the Basilica de Marie-Madeleine, that is, the Basilica of Mary Magdalene. This is not a dissertation on what is known or not known about her, but a description of the personal relationship I formed with her, how she taught me, guided me, and led me from a place beyond understanding into a deeper knowing of my gifts, of myself, and my own, if you will, raison d'être. I had originally moved to France to write a book with a woman who lived there. In the end, though, that book was only a very small part of my experience. While in France, I became steeped in magic, the magic of the Templars, the places where King Arthur and Morgan le Fay lived and worked and healed. I walked the very paths that Mary Magdalene walked so long ago. I met guides and friends both in the flesh and beyond it. I received visions and messages of unfathomable healing. This otherworldly magic that I encountered, though, as you will see, ultimately brought me back to Earth. Over time, it simply became interwoven with my own very real, very human experience of seeking to belong, to make sense of all that I had lived in this human life. In part 2, I journey through Scotland, which is the land of my distant ancestors. I began in the Schiehallion region, and then fanned out to the far-flung Hebrides, and to Mull and Iona. Each place, as you will see, holds many secrets of the Fae and of the earth herself. In these places, the veil is thin, and the magic of inner earth seems to shine, to beckon from just beneath the surface of things. It was here that I began to truly believe the beautiful, fantastical visions of my heart. I began to claim the antecedents of my soul and blood, and then I began to claim my destiny. What those antecedents are and what that destiny is, you will have to read to find out. However, reader, I can promise you this: if you are holding this book, if you have been drawn to its light, its frequency, if you feel the resonance of my own story within your very core, then I assure you, your destiny is no less than that which I have come to know within myself. So let us begin. We start now in France in midsummer, the curtain opening on a woman not old nor young, not maiden, nor mother, nor crone, yet holding within her the light of each. She sits in solitude, but she is not alone, never alone. See her now bent over her desk in the fading summer twilight, green hills rising in the distance, smoke curling from the chimneys of the stone houses of her village. She is dreamy, yes, and wondering. She has a journey ahead of her that no one could predict. Come now, and let us begin.